Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, the one stop shop where we've created a live community discussion that incorporates magic, spirituality, and here you will find us offering tips, tricks, life experiences, learnings from both the professional side of energy work and magical work, and different wisdoms we've gained over the years just from you know, our own oops moments as well as the intentional stuff. Now, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. You're going to want to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, or you're going to want to actually click on the broadcast while you're watching, and then you can follow us later. But we want to see your comments. We want you to participate, especially in a topic just like we're having today. We get to talk about afterlife theories. If there's one thing that separates uh, like human beings as a whole, is where are we going to go or what happens after we die? And I think it's something that should be shared a bit more, but of course, it can go into some taboo places, but we don't shy away from taboo here. And we have the king of taboo here in Eric Rasbold. He is back as our amazing guest, and we'll be sharing some of the things that he's picked up. And, you know, we'll all be having a conversation about what we believe and what we've come across. So, before we get too deep into that rabbit hole, because it is a rabbit hole, this could go, again, so many different directions. We have some introductions to make. So, over here on the East Coast, in my own home, unlike these two lovely beings who are in the same home, I'm by myself and I am Dahlia Rose. I'm the founder of the Conduit School. I serve my community as a healer, a teacher, and a conduit for high vibrational energies. I do this by guiding my students and clients with spiritual development, energy work, meditation. I love, 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 and live with crystals. I offer different services and I do a little bit of counseling on the side. I pull all these things together, ancient healing modalities, supportive practices, and I do this to bring transformation into the lives of those who work with me. And I do all of that because I think and know and believe and feel and just want us to grow as a people and expand the way that we look at healing, reconnect with our bodies, and feel more empowered than we ever thought possible. But on this show, at least, I cannot do that alone. And so, two other amazing beings who are here to introduce themselves.
Well, she could do it alone, and she has done it alone, and she's really good at it. But as Delia mentioned, we are wise AF. And the reason that we are is because we have screwed up more stuff than any of y'all could ever imagine. And so we're the ones here going, look, there's a hole, there's a hole, don't step in the hole, there's a hole. So a lot of my practice actually involves guiding people through difficult situations. I do hold space for people, provide spiritual counseling. I do spiritual cleansing. My name's Katrina Rathwell, by the way. And I do readings for folks and also spell work, working as a professional witch for hire, basically. I have a fantastic body of clients and take on new people every now and then. I've written a few books here and there. And spend my days just being professional witch. But as Dahlia says, continuing the chain link, I don't do this alone. I have a wonderful husband, partner, priest, and all around buddy. And I tell you what, the stuff that Dahlia and I don't know about, Eric fills in the blanks. He is quite a researcher and is very intelligent about these things. And I've always said that I'm the kind of witch that says, hold my beer, I'm going in. And Eric is the one who is very academic and studied and just so educated about these sort of things. So we love having him here. We're excited to have him here for this topic. I can't believe we haven't done this topic yet. It's a very exciting rabbit hole, as you said. So I'm going to pass it on up this way. And honey, you're on.
All right, I'm Eric Rasbold, and if you haven't guessed, Katrina's my wife. And I'm hiding back here on the north side of the house in our laboratory, so we can't hear each other talk and crosstalk. I am the co-founder of the Cusp Philosophy and Doctrine, which is our spiritual path that we follow. I'm also the co-owner of Crossroads Metaphysical, where we make our own magical products, incenses, sprays, candles, oils, baths, soaps, dirts, powders, etc., etc. I'm usually the one that makes those. So if you need anything particularly custom to your needs, or can pick from what we have online, we'll have our website down below in the description. We appreciate it. I'm not sure if I would say that I'm quite as learned as these fine women make me out to be. I do try to apply some rigor in my processes and my thoughts. But I mean, let's be honest. I try to learn from my own mistakes and the mistakes of others, and I've watched plenty of people make them, and I make them myself, and just try to pick myself up and learn from that, and find what feels most organic as far as deciding on a way forward in thoughts or deeds. So that's what's up. And now we're talking about afterlife stuff on this cool show.
To give you a funny story about that dichotomy between the two of us, we had a student one time after we had taught a class on candle magic. She said, that went exactly how I knew it was going to go. You tell us how to use a candle to fuck somebody up, and Eric tells us where light comes from.
So I have a question before we get onto the topic. How did I become the king of taboo? What's that about?
Because you're not afraid to go there. You're like, no, wait a minute.
I tell her everything.
Okay.
You're like, wait a minute,
right.
Is this full of crap? Let me get my shovel and just start digging through the garbage. Like, where other people may play safe behind what they have always known. Eric Rasbold will rise from the ashes even after. Like, I think when you pass, since we're talking about the afterlife, like, we know that's a long ways away, but when you pass, like, I fully believe somebody's going to be channeling you, and you're going to be like giving all the secrets about whatever's happening afterward. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to be like, I knew him when he was alive, and that's definitely.
If I have a chance to do that, I will. I promise you. Okay?
You and Houdini, right?
But yes, I do like I like all forms of spirituality. I mean, from in just all styles, any kind of thing that brings us beyond the five senses of this reality. I like New Age, and I also like New Age. Okay, so absolutely, yeah, you're right about that.
So, you've been doing some exploring when it comes to the afterlife specifically, and I thought it'd be a great place to start if we kind of kicked the ball around and talked about what we believe, and then you can tell us how that shifted for you. So why don't we start with Katrina? What are your thoughts on the afterlife? What you got?
Well, I, for many, many decades, had no thought on what the afterlife would be. It's not that I didn't think about it. It was that nothing felt right or organic to me. And I was raised in the Christian church, so the idea was heaven, hell, judgment day, and all of that. Once I left the Christian church, before I turned 20 even, I discarded those ideas. They didn't feel congruent for me specifically. And I was just exploring different thoughts. And I didn't really rule out anything. And I still don't necessarily rule out anything, because bottom line is we don't know. However, I had an experience in 2009 that that really rocked my concept of the afterlife. And it was like a magical mystery tour, because I had a number of events happen for about 6 months before this thing that told me to go back home to Kentucky. And I never go back home to Kentucky. That just wasn't what I did. And I kept having things happen. Like, there was a library dedicated at my kid's middle school. I went to the dedication, and it was being dedicated. I didn't know this in advance. to a librarian named Kathy Chapman, which was my name when I was growing up. I went to a thrift store and found the exact dishes my mother used growing up and a toy display, and I had every one of the toys in that display. And just things like that, over and over and over, calling me back home. I ended up going back home, and I was at a real formative time in my life where I was trying to figure out exactly what I was doing. And I hooked up with some friends that I'd gone to high school with, and their cousin had just passed. And I had barely known the cousin because, you know, we knew everybody. Barely knew him. His name was Danny. And they said, well, we got to go up to Danny's house and do some stuff. And I didn't know where Danny lived. You know, Danny was an old grizzled man when he died. And so I was just riding with him because I had not had a car for that particular trip. And, you know, it was on the way to somewhere else we were going. So the way that the house was situated, you came around a hill and then went up the driveway. And you couldn't see the house until you came around the corner up the hill. And I just thought, we're going to go stop at a house, grab some shit, and then we're going to leave. As we're coming around the corner and I saw that house, I about passed out. I had never had an experience like this before in my life. This was a house that I had used for about 15 years in meditations with my students. Wow. And what I would do is, it was a very simple Gestalt meditation to be able to take them into meditation and then show them a house, describe it in very basic detail. This is a 2-story with an attic farmhouse, clapboard, a little bit run down. It's got a porch that wraps about 3/4 of the way around. And the back door goes directly into the kitchen. There's 2 doors. You go into a mudroom first, and then you go into the kitchen. And so I just give them a very basic outline, and then they have to fill in the blank. And I did this because we were in an Air Force family and different places, so with different people. They all came up with common things that they saw in this meditation. One was a linoleum floor that looked like puzzle pieces. Another was that the stairway going up to the 2nd floor had a big mural on the side that was faded in places. Another one, somebody came up with the idea that there was a spinning wheel in the closet upstairs, and that a piano had been on the ground floor. And so they're telling me all these things in this Gestalt meditation. And I was like, yeah, you know, you're right. So here's this house. And I couldn't breathe. I walked up into the yard. I knew just standing there exactly where the well was. I knew that even though I was going there in October, there was a gigantic patch of daffodils right over in this section over here that bloomed every spring. I mean, I knew everything about this house. And so I walked in and I said, where's the spinning wheel? And my friend looked at me like I was from Mars. And she said, we just pulled that out and put it in an auction last week. Wow. And she said, we did that and the piano that was downstairs. I was like, bingo. And so it was just, I knew I had lived in this house. There had been some alternate universe. Not that I had married Danny or any of that dumb shit, but somehow in this alternate universe where I had not married my first husband and gone to Guam and gone to England and all these places, I had been in this house. But this did not predate my birth. And so I started channeling down all this information about what my life had been like during that time. And I recognized that I had an afterlife feeling now. And my feeling was that rather than jumping into another body, rather than being reincarnated as someone else, rather than going to different timelines, that we relive our own life over and over and over and over again. And that sometimes those iterations of ourselves are close enough that we can feel them, or we can have a blending of those. And maybe when we're at certain ley lines that they will blend over, or convergences of ley lines that they'll blend over. And it's like a choose your own adventure book. So you're born and you begin to make choices about your life, and each one of those choices changes the direction of where you're going. And so you're living out all of these different versions of this same life where you start with the same beginnings, the same opportunities, the same nature versus nurture usually, but you make different choices and you get to move on to a higher plane when you have, through all of these lives, managed to fulfill everything on your checklist.
Hmm.
And to me, it explained the idea of that when you die, you're going to see your loved ones again. Well, you will, because you're coming back. It explained deja vu to me. Why do I feel like I've done this before? Because this is life 742, and you've done this before. You did it in 400 of them. It explained to me the idea of pre-knowing things, even away from deja vu, that you just know, I need to go meet this person. And so I could do a whole episode just on this. I'm trying not to monopolize, but and I apologize if the ball we're kicking around for way too long. I wrote a book called The Dance Card on Amazon that's about this and how there's certain people on a dance card that we're always going to meet, that we always decide what we're going to do with or what we're not going to do with. And I think that also explains why there's times we meet somebody and we just instantly dislike them. They've done nothing to us, but we just know this person is bad for me. This may not be a bad person, but they are bad for me. There might be times we meet somebody like you, where I meet Dahlia, I'm just like, nope, she's mine. I'm keeping her.
And I'm kept.
You don't need to get rid of me. And, I had this same experience when I met Eric. It was just, no, we're going to get married. He's like, no, we're not. You're old and you're fat and you got kids and we're not doing this because I'm 19. I'm like, give it a minute. But I'm saying that sometimes you just have that feeling that you are meant to be with this person. So I believe that we do have not necessarily soul mates, but a soul tribe that are always going to show up. I think who we run into in Walmart is variable, as far as the timelines go. But there are critical people that are part of our tribe that we're always going to run into. And that is, to me, very comforting, very exciting, and it filled the blanks for me. Now, I'm completely open to the idea that this is all bullshit. But for me, it was the most plausible and what felt the most organic and right as far as the canon that we have, biblical and psychological and near death. I thought even about the idea that a common near-death experience is going through a tunnel, hearing air rush past you and seeing a bright light. I'm like, what is that? It's not being born.
Yep, birth canal.
Yeah, and the sounds of the placenta and the mother's bloodstream around you in the vessel. And, it's what's really funny is they talk to children about what do you remember about being born, which is a very common, question that people sometimes ask their kids. But they did it as a study in 3 and 4 year olds. And an overwhelming number of the kids said green shoes. I remember green shoes. And people thought that was just the dumbest thing they ever heard until they remembered the covers that doctors put on their shoes. And babies are born face down most of the time. So I thought if a baby can retain that, why would you not, if you're being born again, maybe if you're on near death, between death and birth, and that's overlapping, you might remember things about the birth itself that carry over. So that's my big speech. Like I said, I could go on and on and on about it. It's a really exciting topic for me. And that's probably all I'm going to contribute to this conversation because I'm just going to watch you two.
Wow. I mean, the evidence, the experience, the insight, the resonance, all of it, very powerful. Because everything that you said lines up and makes sense. For me, I was given a lot of afterlife things growing up Catholic, and then eventually segueing into Christianity. So heaven and hell were very real for me in Catholicism. They were a little bit gentler in Christianity.
Yeah.
And then getting into spiritual practice, I got exposed to so many things that were just undeniable, particularly mediumship and past life theories and things like that. And then multiple dimensions. The multiverse has been named by Marvel and all those superhero movies, but that became real as I got closer to the Akashic records and understanding what those were. It's not that we have past lives, but we have concurrent lives. And I would add in things like channeling. One day I was told that when we dream, we enter into a different form, a different body that's just less dense. And then we go on to live that lifetime. And then when that body goes to sleep or something happens, like you die in that, on that timeline, you come back into this one. And so that was where my mind went for a number of years after getting into spirituality. And then I got exposed to physical mediumship. And that just blew the lid off of everything that I believed, because when you touch ectoplasm for the first time and you start to go, what? And your
What's
reality,
it like?
what'd you say?
So what's it like? Tell us.
It's wet, cold, and smells like dog. And everybody, yeah, it's not pleasant. I mean, I don't think it's meant to be. It comes from your body. So it's not meant to be pleasant. Um, it has to pass through a lot of things to get out. So anyway, story for another time. But that kind of shattered my reality when I first spoke to Winston Churchill through a physical medium. So like, I don't know what I believe, really. I'm more fluid about the afterlife and focusing on living. I don't find myself in a lot of afterlife conversations, like where are you going when this is finished? Uh, but more, how can you make the most of this particular journey that we're on right now? And I guess the only place I really go personally, like professionally, I don't get into the afterlife too much, but personally, if someone leaves my life and they were particularly significant, or if choices are made that split me and someone I love apart, then I just start talking about like, oh, okay, well, we'll catch you next lifetime. Like, it's fine, go do your thing, I'll see you around. It's not gonna get to, maybe that's very Virgo of me. I'm like, you know what, we'll just do this again another time, because I'm sure we haven't finished our lesson together.
You write it down though.
Right. Hide it somewhere for me to find so I can be surprised again. Like Katrina leaving notes for herself from another lifetime. That's what I have. What about you, Eric?
Well, interesting. I don't have a lot of things that are outward. You guys are both describing things that were from out in the world, and revelations and things that were brought within you because of those things. But I'll tell my little story here, and hopefully you find it edifying in some way. First of all, I was also raised Catholic. Okay, now when I was very, very young, my first memories, my belief in God is not a belief; it's a knowledge. Like, I know it. It's immutable, okay? And it has nothing to do with religion, okay? But being raised in a Christian faith, or, with the God of Abraham, the idea of you get one shot, good deal here on earth, and then you're judged and all that just never made sense. Not when I was 5 years old did that make sense. I didn't know why it didn't make sense to me when I was that age. Now, I mean, my reasoning skills and experience and knowledge has brought me to a place where I can affirmatively say that it doesn't just not make sense, but it is not true. And I would debate with anyone on that topic. But that's not what we're here to do. So like that knowledge, things have happened in my life where, and this sounds so, talk about new age or bridging the gap between new age and new age. You know, when people talk about information downloads, you know, learning without experience, that type of thing. I actually did have an experience like this. And so I have been a disciple of Yogananda's for over 20 years, right? And for those of you who don't know who Yogananda is, just put in Yogananda into Google, and you'll find who I'm talking about, okay? Self-Realization Fellowship. He developed a technique of Kriya Yoga breathing practice that is instrumental in achieving a state of samadhi or liberation, okay? If anything, bringing you closer to that idea of self-realization. Self-realization meaning getting past the personality and ego part of oneself into their actual essence. Some people call it a soul. Okay, that's really what it's about. But go ahead and look it up if you don't know about his work. It's really great. But anyway, now this is important to bring that up. So I have that practice behind me with the Kriya Yoga. Now, when I used to teach Reiki, one of the things that I would have people do, a meditative practice in Reiki 1, is that rather than being focused on where you think we might be going, try to focus on where you think we might have come from, okay? And in the meditation, you know, and it's given to them, they go home and do this over a course of probably a few years, right? To think back to your very first memory and just try to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until you get back to where there's nothing, okay? And armed with that knowledge, those new memories that will come. You might remember the green shoes, you might not, okay? You may remember something before you were born, you know, some kind of premortal existence. You might not. I don't. I'll just say that I don't, okay? But some people do. It's a very useful practice. And the reason I like to do this practice is to get people past the idea that there may be nothing waiting for them after death. Okay, because if you look at it from an empirical standpoint, we're here. We all got here. And to our minds and to our knowledge, we literally came from nothing. We don't have a memory of where we came from. There was a nothingness, and then we sprang into being. Okay, so at least with that, taking all the religion out of it, all of the philosophy out of it, okay, when you die, presumably you might go back into that nothing. But from a legal and statistical standpoint, there is a preponderance of evidence that you will come again, right? So that kind of helps people get around the religious blocking or structuring of what an afterlife might be, okay? Now, on this, okay, my own personal experience, this actually happened. This was in this house. This happened in this past year, right? I was in meditation. I was doing the Kriya technique, and I started following myself down through where I felt this breath was coming from. Because in this technique, you're breathing as you breathe a physical breath into your body. Your energetic or pranic breath is being breathed out. Okay. And opposing. So it's in like a yin yang kind of form, okay? Physical breath out, energetic breath in, and vice versa, right? So I'm following down this path where this pranic breath is going. And, you know, the third eye activation and the visioning started, and the coming out of that tunnel started like Plato's cave, you know, out into the sun. And what I could see, I can't describe it. And it sucks that I can't describe it. I always hoped that I would, because everyone talks about the ineffability of seeing these kind of things. And I'm like, that's crap, right? Of course, how could you not describe it? Well, I can't, okay? But what I could tell you I saw was what this thing was that was breathing in and out of me energetically. And the knowledge download that happened in that moment was that thing that was breathing in and out of me was me, right? And it started to expand. I mean, and became, you know, this sounds so corny, man, but I mean, just, you know, encompassed the universe. Okay. And that it was all a part of me and I was a part of it. Very Beatles-like, right? I mean, it was like that. And in that moment, I realized that there is no death. There's no death. This does just go on and on eternally. Okay. Mm-hmm. Obviously not here on Earth. Okay. But your existence just continues, man. It just does. And I can't say how I know that or why I know that. It defies any kind of rational or even irrational explanation. Okay, but there it is. And it was the same kind of level of knowledge that I had when I was a child of God. It's that knowing. Like it's immutable. There's nothing that's going to change that. Now, interestingly, I went to a past life regression reader, right? And I have never had any experience that would indicate to me that I had a past life. I've never had a feeling of deja vu, or that I've been somewhere, or that I knew someone from a past life. When I met Katrina, I knew her, but it wasn't like I knew her like I was with her before. You know what I mean? Like here. But I've been all over the world, and I've never had that in any building, with any person, any landscape, nothing like that. And I went to this past life reader. And she was just, now this is a person of some repute too. I won't blast her out, but she was kind of befuddled when she was doing this reading. And she was like, all I'm getting is like this Egyptian looking, Anubis-like characters and places that are not here. Okay. And then she's describing it. She kind of stopped, looked at me. She's like, I don't think you've ever been here before. And I looked at her and I was like, well, no shit. That's why I'm coming here, man. I don't think so either. I have no familiarity, in this, alone and afraid in a world I never made, just like the poem goes, right? And, I was looking for maybe a little more depth for my experience here, but I could find none. And she's just like, I've never seen this before. I've never met someone like this before. That I don't think you've ever been here before. I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. So those are my experiences, personal experiences with it. We can talk about different theories until my phone dies. And it's plugged in. Okay, so that's like, until the grid goes down. But right. But those are my experiences. So I don't know what you think about that, or,
I think it's great. I question whether my own second born has been here before, because everything is just, beyond kid shock. It's just like, so I can definitely stand behind having met somebody that it's like, I don't know if you've done this before. But I'm
sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, Bram here is bringing in a different kind of theory. So a Gnostic friend of theirs talks about the higher self as the culmination of all of us in our wholeness, all at once, past, present, and future. I have seen, so I've seen and taught on that subject, not from a afterlife standpoint, but just like, how are we connected standpoint. But obviously it reaches into the afterlife, and the theories that I came across and on some level believe is that, we have this flesh and body existence, and then we go one level higher, that's your higher self, and then you go one level higher than that, and that is gosh, I'm forgetting the name, but then one higher level than that is your monad, and the monad is like the oversoul, the ultimate self. And at each level you have like 12 to 24 opportunities of an individual personality. And the from oversoul monad to human being, you have more dense layers of consciousness and more individuation and more like clinging to the material, as opposed to your higher self that is like, oh, this is all bullshit, and money is nothing. Go out and teach the people while you have holes in your clothes and your shoes, and you're down here like, I gotta eat. So So
Yeah.
I've heard that. Just to say that to Bram, I've heard that as well in a bit more detail.
Something that
Yogananda goes into that
Oh yeah.
as well. Yeah, absolutely. The causal body, the mental body, the different layers, of density, of energy density that's sheathed over the soul to be able to operate in this world. Yeah, that's very interesting.
What are you gonna say, Katrina?
something that I'm picking up on with what Eric was putting forth is, when we talk about theories of afterlife, they're every bit as credible as theories of science, but they're all just theories. But one of the theories that came up that was incorporated into one of the Newtonian laws of energy conservation is that energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Right.
It can only be transmuted. And so it would make sense that if we are made of energy, which even, an EKG says that we're made of energy, if we're made of energy, that has to go somewhere. It doesn't just fizzle out because we are no longer there. Is that accurate, honey? Because you're the electrical contractor here.
Well, okay. So when you're talking about the thermodynamics of that, that is true in a closed system.
Oh, okay.
Okay. As far as energy being, destroyed or created, that's true in a closed system. We don't know. I mean, how do you define closed system? At some point, and we're talking about the universe or multiverses, at some point we would think it has to be a closed system because we can't really, infinity isn't something we can think about outside the absolute abstract. So we hold that theory to be absolutely true, but it is an important distinction to make that if the system is not closed, then that may not play as far as the energy creation and destruction. That's all.
So something else I was wondering about that I think pertains here. Honey, and this has been a theory that I've always enjoyed. Can you speak to the egg theory? Do you know the egg theory?
The what?
The egg theory of
Egg theory.
afterlife and
Oh. Yeah, I don't think I could tell the story very well right now without taking up like 20 minutes. But it is, the all is one and one is all idea.
So you got some of that with Mysterious Stranger by Mark Twain, right?
The egg theory is not brought up in there, but that idea is brought up in there. Yeah.
Right. And that's a matter of each person that you meet is a part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay. I said that the idea being that each person that you meet is basically a part of yourself.
Yes, that we are all connected in that way that, if you want to think about an oversoul, but some people might describe it as, you're a drop in that ocean, but at the same time, you are also the ocean itself. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Right. So another thing that really has stuck with me that I don't know if this is what I believe, but I find this theory fascinating, is the idea that the people external from myself only exist because I'm here.
Oh yes, Dolores Cannon.
All y'all fuckers go away.
So that's a hard solipsism. The hard solipsism argument is that's a hard one. That's a hard one. I mean, for myself, I'm forced to believe that there is a reality that we all share, and that I have an independent mind, separate and apart from that reality. So by extension of that, I have to also agree that there are other people out there like you with agency that has an independent mind, independent of my mind and this reality at the same time. That's just for me. I can't go with the solipsism thing. which is really what Mark Twain was going after in The Mysterious Stranger. That was a when Satan told the character, I don't remember the character's name, but it was Satan talking to him, when he told him to dream a better dream. He was talking about solipsism there. So yeah, interesting. If you haven't read The Mysterious Stranger, it's like 40 pages long. It will change the way you think of things. It's good. I mean, I went to Mark Twain's cabin a few weeks ago, right? And I'm sitting there at this cabin, and I'm like, this guy came up with all this totally brilliant shit in this crappy little cabin in Sonora County, right by the river there. I can't remember the name of the river, but it drains into New Melones. Anyway, guy was brilliant. Read his stuff. You should definitely read that.
I think Mysterious Stranger is available for free online in a PDF somewhere. I think
Oh yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Oh yeah. You can find it.
Drop the link.
Yeah, you don't have to buy it. I mean, his stuff is all free PDF material. Yeah.
I came across that not through. Oh, I just hit my microphone. I came across that as far as like people disappearing. If you don't think about them, buildings, or nothing is created until you think about it. Through Dolores Cannon, I became slightly obsessed. There are people that are more obsessed with Dolores Cannon than I am, but I found it fascinating, and for me, it was something to explain my object permanence issues. Like if I don't see you on a regular basis, if we are not in regular conversation, it's almost like you're not there. And I was tickled by it. I was like, you know what? This helps me define me. So I can buy this a little bit. I'm not going to, go off and do anything, because there's nothing you can do with it. If your house does not exist until you think about it, I mean, well, that sucks. And then like, as you're driving home, your house quickly gets rebuilt. It just doesn't go anywhere, but it's fun to think about.
Well, you know what's cool about that? What I think is really cool about that idea is that what you're talking about has been approached from a philosophical and spiritual angle almost at the same time that it was approached from a scientific angle. Okay. You're talking about the observer effect, right? Scientifically, like when they did the double slit experiment and all that, that observer effect, where when things were measured or observed by something that could make a measurement, it changed its behavior. And this is what gave rise to Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, right? Which is still just like poured over today in quantum mechanics. We still don't understand it. But I just think it's neat that like the hard science and the philosophical, at the same time, they're trying to solve a similar issue, right? I just thought it was cool.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the afterlife, but
well, it kind of
There
does.
was an episode of the new version of the Twilight Zone, or it may have been the old Twilight Zone or Outer Limits or something, where a guy accidentally got shifted into something like 5 minutes ahead of time. And there were workers there building it. And so he was...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea was that a similar thing. It's all being constructed almost as you put your foot down, the board is being laid. So that it's not constructed until you get there. And you get there based on your concept of reality in that moment. And that constantly shifts.
It's like
your reality constantly shifts. And one thing that we had about that, I know that I bring this up way too much, but the fire really gave us an interesting perspective on that. When 1 minute your house is there and 1 minute it's not. And who are you now? And what are you creating now? And Eric has even had a theory that we actually died in the fire. And because everything is so great now, this must be heaven.
Wow. It's the It's the Beetlejuice theory. If you've seen the
Yeah,
movie Beetlejuice, you know, with the crash, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all. Just kind of silly. It's not a serious
No, I mean,
argument.
but it's worth considering. I mean, I sort of exist in a world where walk-ins are a possibility, or you know, you make contracts that multiple souls will move through your body. And so from a grief standpoint, yeah, a part of you guys did burn up in the fire, and then you know, you've gone on to live now in a different way, and you guys are completely different than you were before. So
right?
I don't know, your theory has legs. You know.
You
Yeah,
knew
it's
us
got some
before and
legs. Yeah.
after. Bram knew us before and after. And one thing to kind of, I don't know, think about that is even in terms of numerology, when you change your name,
Mm-hmm.
your feeling and your energy is very different. Women kind of fall into this if they get married and take on their spouse's last name, or if you have a legal name change, and begin identifying yourself as a different person or by a different name. And that's an experience Eric's never had. He's always been Eric Rassel. But you feel different. You present differently. And what happened to that other person that you were before, you know?
Yeah. Well, and speaking of being different people, I'm pretty sure I'm Bram Murphy, just on a different timeline
Yeah,
because
you
I
are.
my mind went straight to the Langoliers as you were talking about the Twilight Zone, and how, you know, they're at this airport and they're trapped in the past, and it's disintegrating around them, and all of that,
Right. Yeah.
and it made there was that piece, and then there's sort of ancestor worship in Mexico and Hispanic countries where you die twice. First is physical death, and then the other death is when people forget about you. And so you have this sort of dissolving of reality around you, and and then that cycle ends. But I mean, like you guys were saying, energy continues. There's reincarnation, there's things like that, and then there are celebrations to keep the memories alive. So I mean, afterlife theories, it's, like I said, rabbit holes, guys, rabbit holes.
I'll give you some rabbit holes. Right. I don't believe we all came here from the same place.
Oh no, we didn't.
I don't. And I don't believe we all go to the same place afterward either. It's not a multiverse thing, but I think, you know, this place is one of those places where different kinds of souls can go for very different reasons. I mean, my road here is my own. No one else is walking it, you know? And I mean, we're all kind of walking across the bridge to get to the other side, but everyone has a different path. And I never bought into this one unified repository of souls that gets to come down and incarnate and yada yada yada. I think it's way bigger and way deeper than that.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be, or else
but
we
I don't
would
have
have
any experience or knowledge of that. But.
I always had trouble with the idea of we are all one. Because I've met plenty of people where I'm like, I ain't one with you. And I am not ever going to be one with you. There is absolutely nothing about you that has anything to do with me, or pre-birth had anything to do with me, or afterlife will have anything to do with me. You ain't even in my tribe or my country or my world. You're just from somewhere else. And
man,
so
if I could Thanos you.
If you could what?
Thanos. You know, snap them out of existence.
Yeah. You know, it's not just a matter of superiority. It's just the alienation that I feel from some people and their energy and how they are and how they respond in the world that is so foreign to me that I can't, I would really have to dig deep to find any relatable place that would tell me we came from the same origin.
Yeah, I can't imagine sitting in the Afterlife cafe telling a guy about, you know, how my life went, and then I ask him, and he's like, Yeah, I was the commandant at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Oh no, I don't think so, man. That's not.
Sorry, we are not
We're
the
not.
same.
We're not the same, buddy.
Yeah.
That would be too much. I don't know. But the thing is, I don't know. So.
And none of us do. This is where
Right.
I guess. So, like for me, I don't struggle as much with oneness I did in the beginning, but I think it's because I've blended multiple theories, and that is to say, no, we aren't all one thing, but we're multiple versions of several things. So, the three of us might be in the same soul tribe and connected at that, like I said, monadic level, and then Auschwitz guy is different body, different different group. So
Yeah.
Even amongst mammals, when we look at birds and we look at fish, we have certain animals that we call fish, and some of those, they really dug deep into the biology of it, and they're not even related to each other. We just call them fish because okay, you swim and you have gills and you do this, so you must be a fish. And birds and insects, we look, lots of people still look at a spider and go, that's an insect. And well, no, it's not. So who is to say that people are necessarily all in the same? Not that one is better or worse or more or less than the other, but possibly not the same.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about people who try to like do the whole better, worse, this, that thing. I mean, it seems like
Those
such
are the
a
people
silly
I
thing
don't get
to
one
do.
with.
It seems like such a ridiculous concept to say,
Yeah.
oh, well, even when you get into like aliens and things like that, because that's where I see it the most. It's like, oh, well, I used to be an Arcturian. And it's like, well, you're not now. So we're on level playing ground. So, but I love
what used to be crap.
Girl.
I love what Bram here has to say, just to echo what we have all been saying. Why have a well of souls when the quote from Edgar Casey is there is a river, and probably a lot of different rivers. Wholeheartedly believe that. There can't be just one repository. There just can't.
Right. I don't believe. Yeah, that's interesting. Good times.
I ended up hopping on because I was like, when we considered this topic, and really we have Katrina to thank for it, because she was like, Eric is on some hot shit right now, so we gotta talk about it. And I was like, well, I only know of my own sort of belief systems around the afterlife. So like, internet, what do you have to say? And it gave me like 14 different theories. Many we've mentioned here. Heaven and hell, we talked about. Reincarnation has been splattered throughout the things that we've said. We didn't touch on purgatory, and maybe that's the that blank space that you were like, well, we come from nothing and then we may go back to nothing. Maybe that's what purgatory is. I know in times when I'm doing healing sessions, people get into this space of relaxation where they feel like they leave their body and kind of go into the cosmos, and then they enter the void. And that void is the void of creation, and anything can happen there, but mostly they're disoriented and they're like, do I want to be here? Am I like, did I mess up? Did I take a wrong turn at Albuquerque? What's going on? But maybe that's purgatory, and religious factions have said that to be a bad place, a bad holding place that we should all be concerned about, and from a place of control, because that's why not. Everything is about control.
Right. Oh yeah. All the religions. Yeah.
Y'all would have to speak to purgatory, because Baptists do not have that. You good Catholics can discuss that. I have no knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot. Even the Mormons have a purgatory. I think they call it not the outer darkness. I had a word for it. Anyway. There are a lot of people that do talk about a place that's neither heaven or hell. just
It's
kind of
Earth.
neutral. But yeah, right. I know. Well, okay. Now, the funny thing about that is in some of the Hindu beliefs, that absolutely is the case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Earth is called Bhumandala, right? And you can, from here, you can right dead even between heaven and hell, right? So, some of the entities from hell can get here. Some of the entities from heaven can get here. Okay. And when a person dies, they either go up or go down, just like the story goes. And they have that as well. But their theory of it is a lot more developed. A lot of the theories I hear about purgatory, there's not really a lot of, well, like, what's it for? What happens after that? Do you just stay there? Like, what goes? You know what I mean? It's not a lot of information.
Right.
Dante spent some time on it.
Sometimes.
If you ever read Dante, but again, it's not really. I don't know. I don't have any thought. I think that what an individual person experiences after they die is very personal to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we all go to like this great hall. I don't think we all go to this anything. I think that is just as personal as this road is here for you. How you experience that the rest of your eternity. It's not a. You ever see a movie Defending Your Life?
No.
You never seen that? Oh, God, funny. Albert Brooks, funny shit, right? But it's a typical. It is a reincarnation story, okay. But everyone goes to Judgment City, they call it. Okay, everyone, doesn't matter who you are. You go in, and you look at your past lives. They talk about different events of your life, and then the judges decide whether or not you're going to advance, or you're going to return to Earth, or you're just going to be outright terminated, right? And it's a comedy, but it's got some interesting philosophies behind it. I would check it out if you want to. Yeah, Defending Your Life, it's called. I don't believe in anything like that. That never made a lot of sense to me, that we would all go to a similar experience. I don't think so. I mean, I think our life on Earth kind of, I wouldn't say it bears it out, but it leads me to believe that that's not the case. So,
I mean, that diverse experience theory makes 100% sense, just from a, when we go on to talk about how angels are, or how our spirit guides appear, our experiences of the ethereal, not even that lines up. And often is presented through our belief systems and through our comfort levels. So yeah, I'm on board with you. Probably is not the same. But what I do find is that I end up finding people that want to have the conversation, and we sort of coalesce on one theory and just kind of all believe that way. So this is a great conversation on diversity, and my brain is like, all right, but how does this match, and can we string this together, and and then all at the end of it all, like, none of it matters because it's not coming for a bit.
Something that backs up what Eric said, that is a movie, is a movie that had Robin Williams in it called What Dreams May Come. And in it, each person creates. It's not a wonderful movie, but it's very deep.
It's a good
and
movie.
It has an idea of how we all create our own afterlife experience. And I want to say it was Thomas Wolfe, but it might not have been, who said, wouldn't it be tragic if we were on our deathbed and realized we did not create a place to go? And I think that that's what we're all doing, is just working hard to create a place to go. And I think that Eric is right, that we all decide what that looks like in energy form.
Well, what's if you watch near-death experience testimonials, right, or read them. I mean, now you can find them on YouTube. There's a lot of really, some are better than others, but as far as the quality of their content, but there's a lot of channels that people just recount their experiences, and overwhelmingly, the Christian meets Jesus. The Hindu meets, Shiva or Brahma or whatever, whatever their particular deity might be within that framework. And there are similarities in the experience, but the experience itself is different. There are people that do go to a library that they refer to as the Akashic Records. There are people that go to a judgment facility. I mean, like they're in almost like a court, and they have an advocate, they have a lawyer, the whole bit, right? So those experiences, while they have similar themes, as far as the energy and the feelings of things, they're as different as those persons' life experience might be.
Yep.
So, and I've watched, shit, man, hundreds of these, and it's pretty interesting. You can tell I have a lot of time, right? So,
and
yeah, they're usually pretty long.
Some people say things like, "I bet when you and Eric are on your own at home, that y'all just sit around and have all these deep conversations all the time." And you know what? Yeah, we do. We also sit and watch Star Trek and What We Do in the Shadows with our mouths open. But I mean, we also have.
I love that show.
What it's like with Eric is
which one?
We're always
What We Do in the Shadows.
We got a lot of time to talk about it.
I can't read the comments. I saw Bram made a comment. I can't read it.
Yeah, just agreeing with you. It sounds like having heard a lot of people talk about NDEs and personalized afterlives, that they can probably get behind that one. So
yeah, and it's a fun thing to speculate about. But the cool thing about it really is we're all going to do it. We're going to find out. I mean, there is an answer to this question, and everyone is going to get it. Dying is the only thing that every human being does 100% perfectly. We're masters at it. Like we know how to do it, and nobody fails.
Well, the inverse of that idea is that if we all are creating our own afterlife, then there are people for whom this life is it, and it just ends. Because that's what they believe their afterlife will be.
Well, there are even astrological theories around that too. Like if you're a 12th house, if you were born in the 12th house in this lifetime, you get to decide whether you want to come back or don't. So again, we can find beliefs in anything. So
I don't know what house I was born into.
I'll find out.
I am a 7th house Virgo. So I'm a Virgo.
Virgo.
Yeah. But yes, we all do this dying thing well, and we'll figure it out. I'm standing by. I will die on the hill that says Eric is going to come back and be channeled by somebody as some sort of information repository.
What I think is interesting about this particular topic is that every person at some point in their life becomes convinced of their own mortality. Something's going to happen. It could be a car accident. It could be, maybe you're on the dark side of 40s and now there's less time ahead than there is behind. It could be anything. But when that happens and that existential crisis comes, and if you think you're going to escape that, you're not. Okay, that will come, and you will have that conversation with yourself in some way. That's when you really start thinking about these kind of things and lending more and more of your mental energy to it. It becomes more and more important. I think it's really interesting. I wouldn't mind talking to people that are very old about what they think of these things. That is if they're not just dedicated Christians or Jews or some determined path, but people that are, I'm going to sound like a jerk saying this, but people that are thinkers, okay?
Oh.
That was kind of cold, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cold.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah. What do they think about this? They've had a long time to kind of process it. Like, where are they at with that idea? Because I don't hear that a lot. Even in the NDE stuff that I've watched from people that are now old, had this experience in their 20s, 30s, 40s, when they were younger, right? So it would I would just find that interesting to ask these people.
For sure.
So I'm gonna go hit up the nursing homes later on and see what I can find out.
Hi, I'm just here to get your stories. Are you a thinker? No, not you.
Like, I know you just walk in the room, and be like, "Hey, look, I know you're not busy. Okay, so let's these questions."
Can we talk about you dying, please?
Right. You're probably hurting for visitors. I've got nothing but time.
Right.
Want to share it
Yeah,
with me?
bingo isn't until 8:00. Okay, we got plenty of time. That's terrible.
Oh, dang, honey.
Oh,
I've been to
man.
way too many nursing homes.
And this is why we keep having him back, because it's I feel like we're in the Wizard of Oz, like, but the yellow brick road, we went into the poppy field. Like, we didn't even we didn't even get to the end.
The poppy field. Oh man.
Oh my goodness. Well, we are at that power hour. We hope that you have gotten something out of this, if nothing else, joy and laughter. I know I have. This has been a great conversation with Eric, and a great topic. I mean, I even feel like we could do a part 2, because the theories out there, the personal experiences. Matter of fact, if you guys want to see a part 2, drop it in the comments and put your past life, afterlife experiences in there, and we can flesh all that out and see where common ground lies or where we learn. But for now, we are going to put this show back in the refrigerator and take it out next week for leftovers. You know, some food is better when you eat it as leftovers. Had time to simmer and marinate real good, you know. Clearly, I'm hungry. But we are going to say goodbye for now, and we will catch you next time on Crossroads of Cognizance. Bye, everybody.